Alright, does it still work? Yep. Sonic Origins was a highly anticipated collection for many people. It had promised to be the definitive versions of Sonic's classic titles wrapped in a convenient package for modern audiences. Game-changing 16:9 aspect ratio, usually. Higher resolutions for those 4K displays, new playable bonus missions and unlockables to keep you coming back for more, all built upon a new engine to iron out any pre-existing bugs. So what happened? To make it clear, I've played exclusively on PC, which appears to be the worst version by far. However, I haven't run into nearly the amount of technical issues that these people have. The main menu's running in slow motion, taking ages to get into a game, frame drops, crashes, freezing, their bank accounts have less money in them, it's crazy. Although, I did encounter some stuttering. Hey, you might want to slow down there, Sonic, I don't think that de novo can keep up. Yeah, they're using the anti-cheat again, same as when Mania launched, which many suspect to be the culprit, or it's just a shoddy port, one of the two. Fixes have been found, but yeah, not a great first impression to have. So before getting into the details, I should answer the question, barring the flawed Steam performance, does this collection at least serve as a convenient way to play all 4 games with minimal compromise? I would say so, yes. A lot of my issues come from the fact that I'm very familiar with the source material, and so arbitrary changes are gonna stick out to me, plus the lack of substantial bonus content that most of us were expecting. But pushing the expectations aside, I still felt like these games were about as enjoyable as they always were. For better or for worse. The animations added to the intro and ending of each game are also fantastic and show that there were people working on this who cared a great deal. The menus are also beautifully stylized. After that intro cutscene and poppy title card, you've been primed for an experience that could rival Sonic Mania. Each game has its own island with a ton of personality and even some jokes representative of the title. You're able to look around and observe the character-specific animations and expressions at your leisure. My favorite is probably Sonic rowing himself onto Spinball Island. It's a really fun way of summarizing each title's events in what could have otherwise been a soulless background element. That is, assuming you even have this feature, as it's bound to the Deluxe Edition. Yeah, I guess we have to talk about that, don't we? They gave us this convoluted chart of bonuses that you'd get depending on the version you bought, which is already an unlikable business practice. If you're locking content behind a paywall before it's even out, you may need to be incarcerated. And are they really making more money by doing this? It's a $5 price cap. I feel like they would have made a bigger profit had they sold it as one flat rate instead of turning people away with this awkward business model. And yes, you're spending anywhere from $40 to $45, a number many have criticized since these games are quite old now, when generally games get cheaper the more time that passes. Personally, I was content parting with the money. These games are quality to me and have offered way more than $40 worth of entertainment over the years, but compared to other retro compilations at half price, and the fan hacks that have already given us what we wanted, well, let's just say it's not very bashful. It's extra concerning when you realize that Sega has delisted Sonic's 1, 2, 3, and CD from all digital marketplaces, essentially locking you into buying Origins if you want to play any of these, which would have been acceptable if this was indeed the definitive way to play each title. But I don't see it that way. You need a hand there, Tails? Each game has 4 modes. Anniversary, the big 16:9 extravaganza. Classic mode, the original experience. Boss Rush, beat every boss in a row on 3 lives. And Mirror mode, where you play the whole game flipped. Sounds great. Sounds like an epic selection if you ask me. Well, from the moment you boot up the game, you can already tell corners were being cut. For starters, the mouse doesn't disappear, so you gotta move that real quick. And then, the menu sound effects are taken straight from Mania. Now, that's not a problem. I like those sounds, but it shows that they're more than okay with reusing assets when they can get away with it. It's why the Sonic, Tails, and Eggman models on the islands are ripped from Generations and Forces. Man, even the 2D Sonic games are reusing the Forces model. I praised the cutscene animations earlier, and that remains true, but for some reason, none of them can be skipped. This makes sense for a first viewing when you haven't seen them yet, but when I sat at the title screen long enough, the intro restarted and I had to sit through it a second time. They even play when trying Classic mode, which is really odd because that's the mode you select when you want to have the original experience. Back when these animations, didn't exist yet. So to include them here feels like a mistake. And once again, they can't be skipped, which is especially tiresome for games like CD and its 2 sets of cutscenes. That also play for Tails, by the way, even though he canonically doesn't exist in that game or the animations. The 2011 port didn't play them for that reason. When you finally get into a game, the character select menu is eerily blank. It pauses the game in the background too. I was all ready to jam out to Sonic Boom when I slammed headfirst into a cold corporate silence. Where am I? Speaking of pause, is that the generation sound? Oh my gosh, it totally is. You can play as all three characters in almost every game. They left Knuckles out of CD because he wasn't in the Christian Whitehead re-release, and that was the basis for this port. I'm sure Headcanon would have been overjoyed to put him in, but Sega. Nor can Sonic and Tails be selected as a team in Sonic 1 or CD. Not that you'd want to with his AI. No playable Amy either, something we haven't had in the 2D realm since the Advance games. And while that may have been a bit of a reach to expect, people would have liked it. You would have created smiles by doing so. The trailer even says new playable characters, so it wasn't out of the question. I think what they literally meant was new characters who weren't originally playable, like Tails and Knuckles in Sonic 1. Man, what a manipulative statement. No multiple save slots or stage select like the mobile ports had outside of Sonic 3, which already had these features by default, but even then, you still can't select which act you want to play. CD has a time attack, but why they didn't stick with the 2011 menu is beyond me. It's so much cleaner, everything is together, it doesn't take up your time. Whereas now, sure, it's more in line with the other games, but you can only see one category at a time, and every one of them loads into its own screen. Options? Alright, let's see what's in here. Oh, just the spin dash. Yeah, that definitely needed its own transition. And every time you back out, you gotta watch Sonic do his animatronic finger wag of coy irreverence. And take a good look, fellas. 4 save files. You even get a tiny Sonic beside it with your time stone progress. Beautiful. Completely gone in Origins. What a travesty. CD's original ending cutscene has been sped up to not play in slow motion, and the quality is great, but the beginning doesn't play with its original sound effects. It cuts straight to the music, and so you miss out on that cinematic feel. They're also no longer rendered in widescreen, although maybe this is their intended resolution, so I guess I can let that go. The vocals for the songs have been restored, which were replaced with instrumentals in 2011, so longtime fans will appreciate that. But as someone who much preferred those instrumentals, I'm bummed that I don't have a way to hear those. It was also way louder than everything else in game. It was like a jump scare when I first heard it. Oh my jeez! Audio is a recurring issue throughout this collection. The good ending is supposed to play this twinkling sound to make you feel all warm and fuzzy for saving Little Planet. And it's missing from Origins, coming off as ominous and empty. And because the video was sped up, it abruptly cuts to black while the text remains on screen when they're supposed to fade away together. Sonic no longer says yes when getting an extra life, Amy doesn't yelp when being grabbed, which probably means there's no I'm out of here, a crime in at least 14 states. The zone clear jingle is uncannily more quiet than the game. The tone that plays when you're underwater is a higher pitch. The quality of the music overall just isn't as high as it's been in the past, specifically in Sonic 3 where it's noticeably muffled and compressed. The mixing is all over the place, it makes certain sound effects way too loud. Or like CD, some just sound weird. Turn it off! Of course, we can't talk audio without addressing the elephant in the room. The remixed prototype music that replaces some iconic tracks from Sonic 3. And I don't think anyone's happy with it. Thankfully, it's only 3 zones, and people have already modded them back in on PC. But losing Ice Cap is really giving fans a hard time. You just can't fill the shoes of a Titan. It would be like replacing chemical plants. Cities would burn. Carnival Night was probably my least favorite song, but even that feels more memorable than what we got. And Launch Base, what the heck happened here? Sounds like the president's about to show up. Audio aside, let's finally get into the gameplay and see what's going on here. Immediately, the sprite work is blurrier than it should be. Once again, mods have already fixed this, and it's perfectly playable as is, but man, what a simple thing that should have been taken care of. Now you might think, well, let's check the settings and see what we can change. Wait, where's the... Oh, you thought there would be an options menu on the pause screen. It's not even in the main menu. In fact, there is no main menu. You go straight to the islands and have to navigate to the museum tab to find the options. I can't believe they added treasure hunting to a 2D Sonic. Like I said before, I didn't encounter many performance issues, but I did see a few bugs. Since these are ports built on different engines, the physics are different from the original games. This causes some scripting to go wrong, like not getting bounced at the right height, so I fall and have to try again, not being sent far enough off of a ramp, being unable to reach this giant ring that you could before. Rolling at the beginning of Marble Garden would send you downhill into this electric shield, and the sheer spectacle was so thrilling. But now it cuts you off halfway away, crippling the best part of the whole zone. After Angel Island gets set on fire, it teleports you to the center of the screen. The layering got jacked in Chemical Plant, so I couldn't get through a loop without backtracking. The score resets to 0 in Sonic 3 if you hit restart, instead of reverting to what the score was at the beginning of the zone. The bonus stage Gumball Machine still says 1-up even though they're coins now. Normally you can hug the wall and this crab won't hit you, but in Origins, it does. This isn't a glitch, but rather confirmation that things aren't exactly as they were. To be fair, they did fix a lot of things too, most being carried over from the mobile ports like the spike glitch in Sonic 1, but also things like Big Arm making a return in Launch Base. The collision on this spring and ice cap no longer causing me great anguish, although it kinda cancels out when the spring next to it can bounce me while on top of it. The drop dash from Mania is now present in all 4 games, and for S3K and CD, it works great. Sonic 1 and 2, however, weren't so lucky. You can only drop dash in the direction that you're facing. You can't change midway, effectively destroying its on-the-fly flexibility that made it such a complementary asset. You also can't influence your direction when jumping after a spin dash. It locks you into that motion without any added momentum from your directional inputs. This issue was present in the mobile versions, but because touch controls aren't the greatest, hardly anyone noticed. With a physical D-pad in hand, it's painfully clear what you're missing, undermining one of the best additions Sonic 2 is known for. The drop dash being in CD also undoes much of the time travel criteria. Since you can chain them back and forth with limited space, you can practically do it anywhere now. Which is cool in one sense, the mechanic was a bit cumbersome at times, so this makes it easier to experience those alternate zones, but it also renders the act of time traveling quite moot since you no longer need all these pre-built courses for it. And lastly, there is a bit of input lag. It's minor, and I mainly felt it in Sonic 1, but the responsiveness isn't 100% in line with how these games should feel. Back to Anniversary Mode, alongside the widescreen, the major change is the substitution of lives with coins. All the avenues in which you could earn an extra life are still here, but you get a coin instead. A form of currency that can be spent in the museum to unlock gallery items, or instantly retry a special stage. That's a pretty big move. There are some notorious segments here that can be conquered with little hassle now. Although I would attribute that more to the extra screen real estate and smooth frame rate. The half-pipe has gone from a catalyst of frustration to a reasonably easygoing minigame. Some things never change, I guess. In some ways, I think it might even be a little too easy to get all the Chaos Emeralds now, mainly in reference to Sonic 2, since it has the most special stage entry points, which was done to compensate for how ruthless they were. It's kind of impossible not to get Supersonic by Chemical Plant now, and that may undercut the significance and greater value that unlocking such a powerful being should have. For the most part, though, it's a neat system that helps Origins to stand out. Even if I think playing with lives is the ideal way to experience games made within the arcade era, Anniversary Mode is probably the one most people are going to play, myself included. But there is a classic mode for those seeking a blast from the past. 4:3 aspect ratio, game overs are back, and no drop dash. Sounds like a great compromise to appease both crowds. It's with great sorrow that I must inform you, however, that this mode is a total fake-out. These aren't the original games, it's just Anniversary Mode but cropped, meaning all the in-engine issues are still present, and more importantly, it doesn't accurately give the classic experience that it's peddling for. Sonic 1 still has the spin dash. Yeah, remember that from back in the day? The biggest problem I have with this is that we can't mix and match different options. What if I want to play in widescreen but have lives on? Or use the Super Peel Out and Insta-Shield in other games? I got catfished so hard when I saw this screenshot on the Steam page of CD in widescreen and a life counter at the bottom. I thought, well, this confirms it. You can customize the gameplay. Turns out, that was the boss rush. My mistake. There aren't even CRT filters or window sizes. We have letterbox designs, but only 13, and they're the typical put the characters on the side with a colored background. I've neglected to talk about the one new feature Origins has to offer, and that's Mission Mode. This is something that showed promise, a way to give more experienced players some extra content to master. Each game has a surprisingly meaty list of challenges, but they're all bite-sized, and 70% of them involve generic busy work like collecting a specific number of rings or defeating a certain number of enemies within a time limit. Now, there are some cool outliers every so often. I like a few of the hard missions where you have to clear a short stage without any rings. On top of the no damage aspect, you also have to be fast if you want the S rank, so there is some legitimate challenge here. It's not always a knockout. There are times where it will send you straight into an enemy. It's almost a rite of passage at this point. The most frustrating mission by far was, fittingly, the last of the bunch in Sonic 3. You have to fly over pits as Tails and pop all the balloons along the way. It's a novel concept that I can appreciate more in hindsight, but learning how to navigate navigate this was brutal. Tails moves way too fast horizontally to possibly react to what's coming, and the balloons can send you right into the fire, knocking you back into the pit. Don't go for the S rank on your first try like I did. Beat it at your own pace so you can learn the layout and then go for it. On the flip side, his scrap brain mission was great. It's vertical, so it's way slower, allowing for better reaction time. Same with his underwater chemical swim. This one took me a few, but I eventually got it. The egg spiker boss had the floor removed, such a simple change, yet the intensity goes way up. I wish the boss rush had a hard mode like this. I would have loved to see all the fights get kicked up a notch. Like the Palm Tree Panic one, who's known for being a joke, but they spawn him in on the far right so you can't get behind like normal. And he moves at double speed with spikes on the ground. It didn't take me long to figure it out, but I appreciated the gesture. There are some where you have to maintain a high ring count as Supersonic, escape a sped up version of the dreaded wall, a handful of tricky Knuckles missions, one where you have to dodge arrows, get rings, and not drown, one where you move at double speed, another where enemies move at double speed. Look at this spider, I'll have what he's having. Overall, mission mode isn't a waste of time. There are definitely some tasty sprinkles here and there, but the majority is still fairly disposable, and they all contain these generic gray X blocks everywhere, like it's straight out of Forces. You can also move around after clearing a mission sometimes, which I don't think you're supposed to be able to do. I really can't tell anymore. You do get a lot of coins from here. All S ranks should give you well over 1,400, so you're more than compensated. I wish I could say they were worth spending, though. The museum is like a shop. It has music from all the classics, even the ones that weren't included, if you bought the DLC, promotional art from over the years, and some animations. It's a decent collection, but not only has most of this stuff already been seen, there's a lot missing. No commercials, director's commentaries, or behind-the-scenes footage. No smaller games bundled with it like the Game Gear titles. This is meant to be a celebration of Sonic's origins, and they don't even mention how he was made. Even the music that you get isn't safe from being rushed. The Knuckles Chaotix OST is all jacked up and mislabeled. Door into Summer is Midnight Greenhouse is Seascape, Destructive Power is Door into Summer. It's like they all got moved over. As a gallery, it's fine, better than nothing I suppose, but they're being toted around as the main unlockables. Stuff that's all gonna be online within a few hours, if not already. This is a different era from when Mega Collection came out. That was pre-YouTube. Things were less accessible. Why not give us a shop with more gameplay-centric items, like skins? It could be as basic as a recolor, different shoes, an afterimage. Let us play as the Chaotix or Metal Sonic, anything. I'd be willing to shell out so many more coins to unlock something as superficial as a different appearance. Actually, when I first heard about the different islands in the menu, I thought we were going to be able to customize them, purchase different enemies, objects, and animations that we could place around the island where we saw fit, and personalize it to our liking. I'm aware of Stealth's tweets surrounding the work environment that Headcanon had to deal with, as well as the extent of their contribution, so by no means am I pointing fingers at anyone. Clearly, there have been some executive decisions that have led to the product's current state, and outside of a big ol' patch, I'm not sure how much more can be done, or will be done. But hey, at least we got this picture of Eggman saying #YOLO. Wow, I regret this. Despite my long list of complaints ranging from nitpicks to genuine problems, I stand by what I said in the beginning about this collection being perfectly acceptable if you just want a convenient way of playing classic Sonic in widescreen. It does that, and I think it'll introduce a lot of new fans to the series. And that's great. I am disappointed though, largely because this should have been an easy home run. If the issues I brought up don't seem bothersome to you, wait for a price drop, and I think Sonic Origins could do well in your possession, especially if any fixes do come out. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, don't forget to check out the next episode whenever I post it, which will probably be soon. Alright. See ya.